on this computer. Awesome. Okay, perfect. We have quite a good number of folks that are going to join us. So I'm going to give them about 2 minutes. If you know you have specific questions, I would love to address them. So pop them in the chat. I hope you can see my whiteboard. I'll try to write big. My handwriting, I will warn you, is not good. That's the reason I didn't teach elementary school, because they would cry when they try to read my handwriting because it's pretty bad. But I'm going to give it a go. And I have lots and lots of things that I think will be helpful to you. We'll tell some stories. I want to make sure that I get your feedback and questions so that I make the evening valuable to all of you, my fam. And I want to give you time to ask questions. So we will wrap up right at 7 o'clock after we have a Q&A. Full disclosure, this masterclass, you'll get a lot of value out of it. You can walk away with, you'll have at least three major takeaways. But at the end, the last 5 minutes or so, I am going to talk to you about the actual module class that this will be walking into that I'm also using as a beta. If you stay to the end and watch me through all of that, I will send you something fun that you can use in your group. And I would love your feedback any and all of the time for those things. Everybody hear me okay and see me okay? Great. Look, I put lipstick on for you. I didn't wash my hair. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have questions, I'm going to stop periodically through the content. My Achilles is that I tend to speak quickly. I will try to be better about it. But when I get really excited, and I'm really excited, sometimes that happens. So if you have questions, I can see you. You can raise your hand, or you can tap raise hand on your screen so that I can ask specific questions, or I can answer any specific questions that you gave me. I also read your surveys and have been doing a lot of research to try to make sure that this is something that I'm not giving you the same advice repeatedly that you can find just through Googling it. So welcome. I know time is really valuable, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that you're all here with me tonight. I'm going to show you how I built a community that people love and has really high engagement. If you are struggling with building momentum around a Facebook group, if you have a Facebook group and you're concerned that you need to basically make it your next full-time job, if you think maybe, well, I'm not creative, I don't think I can do something engaging, I'm here to debunk all of that. You are in the right place here with me this evening. So my name is Sandy Bean, and I am an enthusiastic reimagined teacher with a passionate adoration for shining a light on individuals and their specific magic. And one of my favorite tools is creating community. Long before I created this online community that I know most of you from, my specialty was creating community with kids. Like, I love working with middle school children. And one of the cool things about working with middle school kids is they're creating their own identities. And so giving them a place to belong is super powerful. And what you'll find in the online space is you're doing something very similar. It might seem like what you're creating, like we become our own worst enemy. And we say, well, you know, this has been done before. But the fact of the matter is, not the way that you've done it, and not the way you're going to do it. So your community is important. As you know, I built a 2,700 member monetized Facebook community in less than a year I have no business experience, y'all. And even my social media experience is pretty much regaled to things that I taught myself as a user. And so it was interesting to me as I went through this process, my phone is blown up. As I went through this process, what I've learned from it, and as I, feverishly researched like how to get, engagement and things like that, what kinds of things I've learned are toxic and will kill a Facebook community like that, and what kinds of things are important. So tonight, I'm going to give you 3 secrets that are going to help you build out that captivating community. I'm going to share how I discovered that Facebook groups are a great way to start a movement. They are fantastic. Don't let people tell you that they're dead. They're not. You do them right. They're just telling you they're dead because they don't know how to do it. I'm just saying, The assumptions that you need a ton of time, you need massive expertise, you need a graphic design degree, any of that stuff is all bullshit, okay? 3 key secrets to creating and captivating a community by yourself. Okay, here we go. They are number one, you have to have a purpose. Not a purpose. I don't think I could draw a porpoise if I tried. That's very difficult to read. Let me try this card. You have to have a purpose. that better in black? You have to have a purpose. Okay, you have to have one. It's really important. You could go into anything, but if it feels purposeless, it's going to fall apart, right? You have to understand your tribe, right? You have to understand your people, and you have to go find them where they are, right? You have to understand who you're talking to and go, and you can't be afraid to go and find them. And number 3, you have to create value and connection. Now, I know most of you on this call personally, and I know that the value and connection piece you have sort of inherent to you, or you wouldn't really want to create a community, right? So that part you have unlock. You just have to figure out how to translate that into an online space, right? Looking at your purpose and your people and how to find them, it seems simple, but I'm going to give you some hacks that'll make it a little bit easier for you. Okay. Is everybody with me so far on these 3 ideas? This is what we're going to do. Oh, thanks, Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. I have Taylor on my, I love you. Okay, so these are the 3 goals that we're going to look at, right? We've got a purpose linked to something. We've got you understanding your tribe and building your community consciously from day 1. And you've got value and connection as your driving factors, right? So before we get into the nitty gritty, let me tell you a little bit about how I discovered all this, right? I had Facebook groups before. I was in Facebook groups before, but they're like sort of vague, right? Who here has tried to start a Facebook group just for whatever, and it just fell flat? Like for whatever reason, doesn't matter. And who's tried to start one and it was pretty good? You did okay. Nice, well done. So I don't think I really understood necessarily sometimes what my purpose was. And then when I had the idea for St. Pete Girl Boss, I knew exactly what I wanted, right? I knew what I needed. It was selfish. Like I needed to find people that ran businesses that were, you know, women that were entrepreneurs that lived in St. Pete. It was pretty specific, that were, you know, either seasoned business owners that were willing to be mentors or were where I was and didn't know what they were doing, right? So people who were either willing to give or to at least engage with me about it. I knew really clearly, and I knew it wasn't about me. And that's honestly key. This was for, I wanted to give to them so that they would help me. Like I knew that if I could create an entertaining space where, you know, I could be vulnerable and say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, that people could connect with me, which is super, super important when you're finding your purpose, that you don't center your purpose around, I want to sell them some shit, because people can see through that. Who has been added to a Pampered Chef group, a nails group, like just for the sole purpose of they want to sell me things? Do you join when they invite you? Or do you go, no, screw you, I'm not doing this? Like if it's like your sister-in-law or something, like maybe, but it sucks, doesn't it? Aren't you like, oh no, fuck that, it's going to fill up your timeline? Like, no. I find myself even being irritated, like in the days of LuLaRoe, like somebody would post like one of those good, like autocomplete ones. And I'd be like, oh, that's a really good one. And then I'd click it and realize when I did it, it was going to like push those up in my feed. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. Yeah, no way. Because it does. It's a drain on your time. And I think personally, it makes you feel less valued than people just add you to a group, not because you matter, but because you're another name on the list. And that's absolutely asinine. It's not what we want to do when we're building community, right? So I had lots of questions. I knew who I wanted to connect with. And so I seeded my group with 5 or 10 women who I knew kinda, but I knew they were business owners. And I reached out to them individually and I said, listen, my vision is I really want to have a place where people can ask questions, women can ask questions. Because I had gone to greenhouse meetings. I had gone to meetings with like, you know, Entrepreneur Social Club, mixed groups that were fine, but like I got mansplained all the time. And I don't know if it's because I'm like little or because I'm nice or whatever, but like I couldn't, and I'm not quiet, you know, but I felt like I just like, I couldn't fully articulate what I needed. So when I started the group, it was like, I knew these 5 women or 10 women, I think it was like 8 actually. And I invited even a few, like DM them that I like fangirled over, like Sarah from Kawa Coffee, I think Estella Myers, like a few that I knew were like big, Michelle Tolan, that did not join at first. And then eventually did. And I was like, well, I'm gonna put my on pros and invite that, you know, like, why not, right? And then I was really careful to be consistent. If I had 3 people show up in 2 days, I connected with those 3 people. I made sure I talked to them. I made sure I thanked them for their content. Like, I really wanted them to know that I was really fucking glad that they were there. And as you see, like, you're all there every day. It's harder now with lots and lots of folks, but you know, we still try. So when I showed up for them, they showed up for me, and it works, right? It's just human nature. Our first real monetization that we put some heart and soul into was a $47,000 2-week launch. 47 grand. And for me, that's a hell of a lot of money. Now, it didn't all go to me, I mean, but it was pretty impressive, right? And we have put a ton of heart and soul into trying to make sure that we're building consistently and really looking at it. And the Facebook group is the heart of that. Without that, we wouldn't have any of it. And so I want you to be able to make that happen for you, make that happen for yourself, right? So the first secret, honestly, is to have an actual purpose. Has anyone ever been to a party that when you get there, you're not sure like where to go, where to stand, what you're supposed to do? You don't know anybody, and it's like real awkward. So you like make your way over to like the charcuterie and take some salamis and then peace out. You don't stay, right? Or you have ever had like, this is the worst as a teacher, a shitty teacher. And you get there and you're like, what are we supposed to be learning? Does anybody have a teacher like that, like in college or undergrad or whatever? Kids would come to me and be like, I hate so-and-so. And of course you can't like goss about other teachers, but you know, in the back of your mind, you're like, that teacher sucks. But because they don't share their goals, right? Here, I'm looking at the chats now. I had a fairly successful Facebook, Carla, and I'm reading yours, for strangers to friends in Denver, but a lot of my members came from my meetup group, so I had to convert them over. Yeah, see, I really think if you can have a hyper local component where you can meet in person, there's very little that can substitute for in-person meetings. But I will tell you, you can nurture online relationships really successfully. There are people in St. Pete Girl Bosses that meet any of, I'm sure it's happened to you, that come up to you at a meeting and they're like, oh my God, Eileen, I've seen you. And you're like, oh, who are you? You know, you've not met them, but they feel like they know you. And so we can definitely do all of that within our circle, right? Without seeing them in person. Kimberly, yeah, Kimberly tells this great story. Kimberly, do you want to pop on and talk about the Facebook group that you pay for just because you like the community's great? I love this story. It's such a good one. Where are you, girl? I see your comments. Yes, hop on just for a second. Just tell a story. It's so cute. It's great. It's great. Do it. Do it. Because it's important, because if you can get into a community that you love, you will put in your money for it. You will put in your time for it, won't you? I know I will. Like, I sometimes just need to go talk to my hairdresser. Like, Elaine does my hair. She's in Clearwater. I'm a busy person, but sometimes I will go ahead, and the people that are supposed to be watching my dogs are not doing a very good job. Sometimes I will go and make my time and my money and just go because I want to be with her. Your Facebook community is very similar, right? So if people start to form that kind of relationship, that affiliation with you and the community you've created, they're going to be willing to put in their time and their money for you. Okay, so your actual purpose. So if you don't lack purpose, it's going to feel good. If I said to you, hey gang, we're going to run a race. I don't know how far it's going to be, but let's just go. You would be like, screw you, we're not doing that. Same thing if I brought you into a Facebook group and I said, just close your eyes and we'll see what happens. So we're going to talk a little bit about purpose, right? I'm going to erase this here. So when we're talking through purpose, what exactly does that mean? Now, those of you that were at coffee last Friday, you know, there's this great book. It's called Purposeful, and it's by Jennifer Durbin. Has anybody read Purposeful by Jennifer Durbin? I definitely recommend you check it out. She works for change.org, but she used to be the head of Facebook groups. And she talks about all of these amazing case studies about women who have created movements. Now, they're nonprofit, they're passion-based movements. Not a lot of them are necessarily start out as for-profit businesses, but the way that she talks about it is something that's easily transferable to something like what you do. The one that she starts with is a group that's called, it's about wearing the hijab. And a woman decided to start wearing the hijab, and she was an athlete. And there weren't hijab for athletic women. So it wasn't a real breathable material. So she made a Facebook group about ways that you could, it was called Surviving Hijab. And it was about, you know, just trying to function in the regular world while you're wearing your hijab. She had tens of thousands of members very quickly. And she wrote up to Nike, and they ended up creating an athletic hijab based on what she did in her group, only from having that Facebook group, right? So understanding whatever your values are, right? And we talked about that at Coffee on Friday. I will do another class on values if you would like. Just make sure that you either email me, you can DM me, find me somewhere, and I would love to bring you in, and it'll be free. I'd love to talk about it. You have to understand your values, okay? You have to understand then from your values, your purpose. Why do you need a community? Like, why? A community is a place that people with a common culture interact with each other. If you don't need people to interact with each other, you don't need a community, right? If you only want to interact with them, you can use Voxer. There's ways that you can coach people and do things like that. But when you want to give them the hive mind, the power of that, then you need a community. So understanding the purpose, the values that you have behind it, right? One of my big values is collaboration. Another is education. So St. Pete Girl Boss is centered around those, right? I love, one of my big values is also spontaneity. And so as crazy as it makes my more structured friends, like that's still something we do. And that's what keeps it fresh, right? So really looking at your own values, because if you don't have your values to back it up, you're not gonna fucking do it. You're gonna hate it. It's gonna drain you. And it's not going to work. So you have to figure out ways to authentically bring your values around to your purpose, right? So you have your values, you have your purpose. I know it sounds like real basic, right? But taking the time to understand your actual reasoning for a community, it forces you to do something really important. And that is create a culture. Okay, so go with me on this. Think about your favorite teacher. Think about your favorite teacher, right? I want you to think about, or the favorite place you ever worked, right? Or something that involved you with another group of people, but it had its own, like they had a little nickname for you. And maybe when you went in, like in my classroom, there I had a Shakespeare head. And on test day, when kids came in, it was the only day they were allowed to touch Shakespeare. They were allowed to rub his head, and then they could get a piece of candy and they would go and sit down. I told them if they touched Shakespeare outside of this situation, they would get diarrhea at prom, and it was guaranteed. And so no one ever touched him, but it's true. And so when they would walk through, this became like part of our culture, and they would dress him up on holidays and stuff like that. And so these little things became this way that they could talk to other people about, oh yeah, her English class is right. Did they really want to come in and study like short stories and learn how to analyze the Freytag diagram? No, they didn't. But I created a culture that made them want to be there. It made them want to see what was going to happen next. And it was built around my values: spontaneity, learning, uplifting, collaboration. So if you can create a culture that feels like they belong to something, you use the same colors, you have consistent posts, you hold everybody to that same standard, right? Your content goes with that same system, and you have a culture. That's what makes people feel like they want to belong. There's a psychological aspect to it, right? The need to belong is a very deep need. We have to belong. It's like our lizard brain, right? Our reptilian brain needs to feel like we belong so we can survive. So we're not going to get like eaten by dinosaurs or saber-toothed tigers or some shit. So if we're part of a group, it feels safe to us. We want that, right? So we can pick and choose though where we want to be. So understanding our culture is absolute key, but you can't build an authentic culture if you don't start with your values and your purpose. Questions about values, culture, purpose, right? Anything? I'm going to go and look. Yes, the values, fabulous. Okay, so now, with the culture. So one of the big objections people have to wanting to start a Facebook community is they think it's going to take like a ton of time. And is it time consuming? I mean, a little bit. Most things that you need to do are, but it doesn't need to be something that you spend more than, a half an hour or so a couple times a week on. And culture is actually a really important part of that, because once you understand your culture, your posts and your stuff, it kind of writes itself. Like the girl boss is like, I understand what the culture is, right? So if I can find something that's funny, that's uplifting, if I have an entrepreneurship question, it's not like I'm going out there and trying to like reinvent the wheel. Like, it's business stuff. Like, that's what it is. So it writes itself, right? I'm not going to find things that apply to a mixed audience. I'm not going to find things that are written for kids. Like, it's a specific thing. So once you find your time to create your culture, that goes right along with your content, and it becomes a specific time saver. And when you finally like him go and start declining posts and things like that, it's because it goes against this. It goes against your purpose. It goes against your values and your culture. I'm going to bring in something that's a hot button issue. We do not allow self-promotion in St. Pete Girl Boss. First of all, I'm going to digress for a second and you'll learn about this in the full length course. It's a toxic thing that will make your Facebook group fester and die like those little black things in The Little Mermaid when Ursula, like, you know, those things. That's what will happen to your Facebook group. Because it feels spammy. People feel, it doesn't feel good. So self-promotion is inherently selfish. It goes against one of the core values, which is collaboration. Right? So nope, right off the bat. It also defeats the purpose because it's not every man for himself. Right? It goes against the culture because it's going to create people that, you know, feelings are going to be a little bit ruffled because, you know, this person doesn't contribute in this way and all they're doing is trying to sell me stuff. It goes against this. So if you take this time, this is the big thing that most people don't take the time to do, you will be setting your group up for success right away from day one. And Carlin, this is probably why your group worked so well in Denver. You already had a little culture, right? Because people knew each other, they were already meeting, they knew they wanted to be buddies. You know, you had all of these different, you know, things already in play that created this situation, right? Your culture was a big part of that, right? And for those of you that have like that quirky fun streak, make your culture reflect that. So many of us have that aspect to us. Or if you are just a naturally elegant person or understated or introverted or whatever, let your culture reflect that. Let it reflect your values and your purpose, okay? So I decided to throw myself into mine full time, obviously. It's not necessary for you, for your group, right? A consistent post a day, creating a pattern that people can count on, predictability, match Monday, right? Coffee every Friday. Those kinds of things are things that people can hang their hat on. And again, it continues on with your culture and will get the ball rolling, right? So this book that I talked about, Purposeful by Jennifer Durbin, and what my experience, what it emphasized is we really have to look at our values and why we want people to interact. If you don't have a goal, your Facebook group already sucks, start again, take two, okay, just saying. So if you think of it that way, a race with no finish line, a teacher who gives a test and you didn't even know what it was on. I've had tests in college that were literally not on the lecture notes or the book. Has anybody had a test like that? You show up and you're like, what is this exactly? No, don't, that's bad. It makes people feel yucky and that's not your job, right? So once you spend some time thinking about your goal, you write up some rules, right? You got to have rules to keep it on the up and up, what you're going to welcome, bring all that stuff in. You've got this fantastic culture, boom, right? Cool. Does anybody have questions about, these erasers are like, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes erasing these 3 words. Does anybody have questions about building a culture, about what you've tried, any commentary, anything like that? Before we move on to big secret number 2, I'm going to go into the commentary.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, yes.
We can quickly run down there now. Hopefully
Yes.
the chicken will survive.
Talking to me about chicken? Oh no, she's talking to someone else. Hi, Erica. She's so cute. Okay, I am not cooking. All right, number 2. So we've got culture. That's number 1. Number 2, the next thing that you have to do, you could have the sexiest culture and the community that's like an absolute like wonder. But guess what you need in your group next? You need folks. You need folks, and you need folks that aren't just your sister-in-law or whatever, right? So I'm going to teach you big secret number 2, and that's where you find your folks. You have to, what I like to call, seed your community, right? So right now you've tilled the soil, you popped in the fertilizer, and you have a beautiful landscape, right? Your community looks fantastic, and you're like, you need seeds to put in your field. Otherwise, you just have mud, right? So next thing we're going to do, right, is your next secret is that you need users, right? Number 2, you need engaged users. So where do I find engaged users? Well, you may know people that already connect to what you're doing, okay? So like Carla, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. Like you probably knew people right off the bat, Carla, that are into wellness that would have wanted to engage with you, right? If you have those people in your community that would be willing to step in and just engage in your community, that is awesome. Bring those people in, right? That's great. My community started with, you may know some of these people, Alyssa Van Nuys, Jennifer, who else? Kimberly Penrose. Maybe that's it. There has to have been at least 1 or 2 more people, but it was like, and then I said, oh, Stacy, so worker Stacy. And I said, hey, if you know women who own businesses too, that you think might need some support, pull them in, right? So I want you to think about this. I want you to think back at your values, your purpose, right? And then ask people. And when you invite your first round of people, I want you to reach out to them directly. And I want you to say to them, hey, I'm building a new community. This is my purpose. I would love to have you in it if it's something that you're interested in. I just want to get people together and talk about XYZ. Approach them directly. Do not, it is a death knell to open up your friend list and just check boxes. That's bullshit, first of all. I don't like it, right? It's kind of like going up to somebody and just like grabbing their boob at depends on what you're into. But you want to make sure that you finesse it a little, like buy an appetizer. So ask if they want to be part of your group. And when you get the go ahead, if they say no, I'm going to borrow a little Kimberlyism, that's fine. They're not your people. But if you get 5 to 10 really solid folks in that group that want to interact, you're set. And when you buy the course, I actually have a bonus that's like specifics about where to find those users to seed your community, right? So you want to find some of those users to seed your community, and you'll see what they're going to do when we talk about creating value and creating content, right? You want to make sure that they are the people that want to interact with your stuff, right? So Leah, like your stuff with cervical discourse, right? You probably have people that they may not even know or understand about your stuff specifically, but they're into other things, right? They can be tangentially into something that you're doing, right? Maybe they're into wellness, or maybe they've had issues like with their cycles or their fertility or whatever. And those are your people, right? Bring them in. You can have people that serve something similar to what you do, bring them into your group, right? Don't consider them your competitor. So like, for example, if you're a real estate agent, do you have a mortgage broker that you really love? That's a friend that you could bring in, because boom, guess what? You're complementing services off each other. They're going to bring in a few extra people. Nobody's competing. Remember, your goal of this community, this free community, is not to sell to anybody. You're creating a culture. You're educating, and we're going to get to that in a second. You're creating value. You can turn this into something that's monetized, but not initially with what we're talking about today. This is just starting a community that can build some momentum behind your purpose and your vision. Cool? Everybody's cool with that? Okay, so let me check the comments in the chat and see if there's anything. Yes, quality versus quantity. Yes, okay. Carlin, can you elaborate a little bit on how you learned that the hard way? I'm curious.
In my video. Sorry, I'm allergic to Monday and St. Pete today, so I sound awful.
I have respect for you.
Well, first of all, I grabbed a lot of boobs, and I would also collect, like, I would ask people if they wanted to be added to the group sometimes, and then they'd be like, sure, so I'd add them, but I think it was because they didn't know what else to say, and then these were the people that weren't really engaging. And then I actually opened it up to people that, like, they were my friends and they wanted to support me, but they had zero desire to be engaging with strangers to friends. Mm-hmm. And so the group I'd be like, oh, look, there's 1,000 people in my group, but I had 30 that would maybe engage, and there wasn't the culture to engage with each other as much as they were engaging with me. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't set the culture, that I just didn't set it up. I mean, I still actually have this group, and I've been trying to figure out if there's a way I can flip it now and use it as a different group and like rebrand it. But there's only a handful of people from Florida that are in it that have somehow found it, but most of the people don't live here. But anyways, the quality versus quantity, there's nothing worse than when new members join and you create a new member post and you say, oh my God, welcome new members. Please share something about yourself or what brings you here. And it's crickets.
That sucks, doesn't it? You're like,
it's like the worst feeling.
Yes.
So you just don't want that. And you want people that are really excited to be in the group, because there is no group if it's just numbers and we're just numbers.
100%. I would so much rather have 10 or 20 engaged people that I'm talking to than 1,000 that don't care, right?
Same with an email list.
What's that?
The same with an email list.
Same, exactly. And you don't need, and I think Kimberly actually Kimberly, I keep quoting you because you said so many gold things today, but about how like two people drive up the bidding, right? All you need is 2 people to get the race really going. All you need is a couple engaged folks. So I think, and especially with those welcome posts, that's not you falling flat. It's just a matter of like, those were people that wanted to support you, but that's not their thing. I think it's really important when you send those DMs to give them an out. If this doesn't sound like it's for you, no hard feelings, it's totally okay. And I don't even ask for like, you don't have to answer me. I put a link, click it if you want to, like, that's it. And start out with like, if you haven't talked to them in a long time or whatever, obviously engage a little bit and be like, hey, I just thought of you, not like, hey girl, I'm like, you know what I mean, but really like, if it's someone you authentically thought about, be honest with them, right? So the users are super essential. Let me think about what's next. Okay, so I want you to think about ways that you can meet people outside of your own family, right? So like when you go places, how do you meet people? Well, you go up and say hi sometimes, right? Sometimes you have something in common with them, maybe a mutual friend or a mutual purpose. So guess what? In order to find users, you have to start building your own social proof. Here's some ways to do that. Number one, you can write blog posts and share them on your page, on LinkedIn. People that comment on things that have to do with that, if it relates to your community, they can be invited to your community, right? Other ways, you can, let me think. You can go ahead and do lives on your personal page, talking about things. Whoever comments and wants to engage with you, those can be your people, right? Mutual friends, ask for referrals. I have a whole list of these that I'll give you with instructions. That's a bonus that comes with the course. But these are all ways that you can find folks that aren't necessarily right in your circle. And also, when they love your group, they're going to invite their friends and so forth. It's like Kevin Bacon and 9 degrees of separation. Pretty soon, Taylor Swift's in your group and you're getting tickets to things, and it's great. Okay, so with the old way of just inviting people, as you've seen, we're not engaging, right? With the new way of handling it the right way, you are going to meet people that you don't know, and it's going to expand out into new opportunities for you, which is the goal, right? Unless you're attaching this group to something that is just a passionate interest, you have a mission, you have a vision, it's a charitable endeavor, I'm assuming you're going to want to turn it into a monetization thing. So if you're adding value and people begin to respect you, right? And you're posting in other groups and you're talking to people and things, they're going to naturally be curious about what you do. And then selling what you sell is going to take care of itself, right? And then you can apply these rules to a paid group. Cool? All right. So that's a big secret. Number 2 is users, right? Cool. Are we cooking along all right so far? Everybody's with me? Awesome. Okay. Number 3, the last thing is so you really want to build consciously, right? So you have to understand who your tribe is. You've got to build consciously from day one. Don't be inviting bullshit users. If somebody's going to be butthurt that you don't invite them, but you know they're going to be a pain in the ass, do not invite them. That's all there is to it. You know those people that you have to invite to the party and then they all bring their friends and they bring it all down? Dump them. Anyway, secret number 3 to this whole situation is value, right? So you want to create value. This is inherent to who you are already, right? The idea here is even if you don't think you're creative, you feel like you're awkward, you don't think that you can make pretty graphics, whatever, you can still create value, right? Think about there's always, like, I can't draw really all that well, but I still would draw to show my students to illustrate things, right? They didn't care that my pictures suck, right? It's fine. I think my sense of humor is somewhere between like a dad and like a dirty stand like Gilbert Gottfried, but I still manage to pull it off and people are entertained for the most part, right? As long as you're authentic, you can still create a nice little mood, a nice little community, and then share your knowledge and create some value. Something that's really important, right? Because we think it's all on us. I've audited people's Facebook groups for them that are like crickets, like you mentioned, Carlin. And the reason why is because they're making it about them. They're the sage on the stage, like, hey, I'm going to tell you all my things. When it's not about you, it's about them. So if you can make the group, the value in a group equals what's in it for them, right? You want to ask them questions. You want to set it up so they can engage with each other. Your sharing of your own knowledge should almost be like accidental. right? Almost like, oh, well, you could maybe try it this way. I like to pose a question and then I'll answer it in the comments if people, have other things. I'll contribute to the discussion in the same way that my users contribute to the discussion. If I'm going to be didactic and teach something, I like to I'll do it on a live maybe, or I'll be like, all right, soapbox, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I try to make sure, and you all have interacted in the group with me, so and I know this is hard for those of you that have a group that's meant to teach something, right? But what I want to tell you is that you can get there in a roundabout way. Teachers call this constructivist learning, right? Constructivist learning. And constructivist learning is done if I were, for example, to put you in a kitchen and give you a bunch of ingredients and say, I need a cake. You could just slap a bunch of things together, and I gave you a couple hours. You would see what works and what doesn't. And at the end of the day, you might have a cake, right? You may. There's lots of different ways that we can do constructivist learning. As a teacher, I used to do with geology. I would just give them a bunch of rocks, and then they would have to do a dichotomous chart, like which rocks are shiny and which ones are this. And then they would develop a whole list of qualities. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, that list was very close to the list that geologists use to identify rocks and minerals. And I didn't give them any information. They figured it out themselves. So human beings, our brain is very constructivist in nature, and it wants to latch onto something that we feel we can contribute to and make meaning of. So if your community, right, is asking a lot of questions, you're turning to them, you're giving them a little piece and asking what they think about something, you're trying to create ways to think about problems, that's all fine and good, because that's what's going to give them value. People want to feel like they can contribute, right? Does that make sense? So if you have a culture that's a strong culture, that lays out all of the rules and makes sense and is linked to a purpose and a value system, you go find the folks that have a similar purpose, a similar value system, and you love on them and you bring them into the group and you make them feel important. Then you start doing this, you're going to be good. One of the things that you also have to do is you have to make them feel seen. This is not as hard as it seems, and is probably the most time-consuming thing. So you're creating value with your posts, right? You're asking a lot of questions. And the paid course has a list of high value posts too. So you're asking questions. And I am going to say that you also want to go live. For those of you, I know some of you feel like you might vomit when I say this. Don't vomit. It's not as scary as you think. A really beautiful secret to going live is to go back to your seed people and ask 1 or 2 of them, give them a list of questions that you want to be asked and be like, here, will you go on my live and pretend that I didn't give you these and ask me these things? And they'll be like, sure. And then you won't be talking to yourself, which I sometimes go live even when no one's watching, and it's less pressure. But you can have those questions seeded in, have somebody come and interact with you if you're worried that you're not going to know what to talk about, or that the point that you're trying to make isn't going to come up, right? You can give one of your seed members your notes for your live. All right, I'm going to pop into the chat because I'll say things. Yes. Okay. That's a really important thing that you ladies said, actually. Yep. Don't let your personal friends in your group unless they're in one of your programs. Kimberly, that's a great point. There are a lot of people that are watching your content that are not engaging. So when you're providing value, another thing you want to do is be consistent. Consistency is key. Today, I put up a post in St. Pete Girl Boss that asked people what their first job was. It's hilarious. I recommend you go watch it. And I think I have 3 or 4 people that I've never talked to that have commented on that post, right? Even when my engagement is down, because last week was rough. So engagement in Girl Bosses was down a little, maybe 5%. I look at my analytics all the time. You still want to show up. You still want to be consistent. You still want to put in your Match Monday and your Friday coffee or your Tuesday coffee recap. Consistency is very much key. Right? And understand that there are lurkers that are getting value, and they may invite people. They may buy a product from you. They may engage in some other way, right? Some people just don't, they feel like you do, maybe. They feel weird or awkward or whatever in that online space. And so still show up for them, right? It's not the majority, hopefully. If it is, maybe we need to change your strategy, right? They'll PM and chat all day, but nothing on the main page. There's so many. We have girls that show up to hot girl walks that I'm like, I've never met them. But it's again, does it matter, right? Because the goal for you ultimately, right? At the end of the day is that you've created a safe space for them. They're connecting to you so that ultimately you're going to have an outcome with them that involves a sale or a connection or whatever it is that you want to do. So if that's not on the Facebook page, maybe that doesn't really matter for that person, right? You never know, you know? So yeah, so it is true. So consistent despite your, yes, exactly, your closet peeps will know that you are there. Something like 1.8 billion people use Facebook groups every month, 1.8 billion. So not all of them are going to create content. There is, it's a 90, I think it's 99-1 or 90-10-1 rule. 90% of people are just going to look at your content. You've got 10% that are going to create content, right? Or that are going to, I'm sorry, consistently engage. And you got about 1% that are going to create content consistently. We actually see those numbers fairly closely with Girl Bosses. So we have 2,700, right? We've got about 300 that are pretty consistent with their interactions, with commenting, with things like that. And about 1%, about 30 or so that are solid contributors that post and post and post and post and post. And so that's okay. That's pretty consistent. If you go above that, like sometimes we have 50 some months, that's huge. But we still have more than that come to coffees. We have more than that are will join our memberships. We have more than that will DM us and thank us for something. So you really don't know the impact that you're having on people. You don't know, even when you're just showing up and being consistent for them, right? Your goal in your Facebook group and community is to create value. Now, is Facebook the best tool for you? I don't know. It depends on you. It depends on your purpose. It's the community that I know best, so that's what I tend to use. But there might be other things that might work better for you, and we can talk about that in the paid course. So adding value, remember, it is not about you, it is about them. Add value for them. Okay, you go live, you ask lots of questions, you know, post things that you think are interesting. If you post a news article, don't just share it. Give your opinion about it, ask them what they think, engage on that level. You want to make sure you're giving them all of that, right? And consistency. Consistency is absolute key, right? Now, this might seem very time consuming, but let's break this down, right? If I get on in the morning, 8 o'clock or so, and I ask a question, maybe around, now I'm obsessive and I check my phone, it's a problem. But maybe by 10 or 11, I get in and I see I've got a bunch of responses. They're going to be talking to each other eventually. So it's not all on you. I can get in and make sure I respond. You want people to feel seen. So especially at first, if everybody at first, my first like maybe 30 people, anytime somebody put their precious time in to make a post or to respond, I try very hard to respond to everyone. It's impossible now, but you want to connect to them, right? You want to make sure you know them. If something comes up and you can tag them, that'll actually push your Facebook up in the algorithm to your group so that they'll actually promote it for you. If your engagement gets high enough, you don't have to actively recruit new members either. Facebook does it for you. They'll show it through your group to you. So consistency is really important. Making sure that you are responding to people, but really, like, if you ask a question in the morning, you get on later, you do some responding. I think, I mean, you can knock it out in a half an hour in a day and really create some serious growth, right? You can schedule your posts. You can batch your content and schedule your posts. You can do that in Facebook groups now. You didn't used to be able to, but you can now. So there are ways to do this so that you can actively nurture a community and it doesn't become a huge hassle. But remember, hopefully you've built it around your values and your purpose in such a way that it's fun for you, because when you show up to something, people know when you don't want to be there. And if something is in your Facebook community that sucks and you don't even want to be there, you need to pivot, because you're trying to drag people into something that you don't even like. So why? I'm just saying, that doesn't seem like a very good value to them, you know? So that is secret number 3, how to provide value, right? With consistency, with questions, with lives, with posts. So let me ask you a question before we move along. If you had the choice to try to do all of these things yourself, right? Or you had somebody who's done it time and time again to help you get these results, what would you choose? If you prefer to go it alone, type 1 in the chat. If you would like yours truly to be your sage guide, what do I know? But you know, I'd love to try it. You've all been in Girl Bosses. Drop a 2 in the chat, which would be wonderful, because I'm very curious if you would be interested in going along this beta journey with me. 1, if you think you got it, I don't need help. 2, if you'd like some guidance and some material to help you through all of this, pop that sucker in the chat. Let's see what we've got. Look at all these twos. This makes me happy. You are my sunshines. Well, good. Then that brings me to my last part of this, and then I will take questions. And I'm happy to linger a little bit if you would like. I am going to talk to you about my beta class, 1000 New Best Friends. I named it because when I started thinking about this course, that's how many we had in our group. And now we have more. So I want you to think about this. This is what my course comes with, right? It's 6 weeks, right? It's 6 modules. I walk you all the way from values through culture, and then talk you through sustainability, and then giving you creative post ideas, right? So it's 6 weeks, 6 modules. The beta course is half price. It's $297, but let me show you what it comes with, right? So module number 1 is called Don't Go Into This Blind. And we're really going to look at your values, your purpose, your mission, your vision, and refine it, right? So you can have a meaningful foundation and avoid the drudgery of a community that sucks and you hate it. It's at least 2 hours of work with me. We do a Zoom, it's live, which is, this is going to be one of the only classes I teach like this. So you can actually ask questions. So that one for module 1 is about $600 value, because I put 2 hours, I'm $300 an hour into it. Plus you have access to me. I'll put us all in a group and we can all chat and it'll be great, right? Then module 2, community is not a dirty word. We're going to actually discuss communities. We're going to talk about what Facebook wants us to do so we can play the game a little bit. We're going to talk about ways that you can offer a different kind of community to your higher paid clients so you can make them feel even like, oh, nice, you know. We're going to do that. We're going to do all of that so that you can support your goals rather than feel hollow like you're missing the mark, right? So that one is another 2-hour course where you get an hour of content with me, and then you get another hour of stuff that you are going to do on your own. Then number 3 is called the Culture Club. You can hear it. You're singing it in your head, aren't you? Karma, karma, you know? Boy George. Culture Club actually is another $600. This is setting your culture, but you also, I'm excited about this one. I give you a culture framework. It's great ideas for cultures. And I'll even hop on if you want for a couple minutes and like look at your stuff. If you need help with Canva, whatever, you have access to me in the beta that people don't normally have access to. So that's going to be a lot of fun for us. Module 4 is Get This Party Started. We're actually going to find people and invite them, right? We're going to seed your group. Now for you, Carlin, if you're in this, we're going to actually look at who you still have in there, and we're going to actually see like, what can we do with them? Do we need to turn it into a hyper local group? What do we need to do with it, right? And this is going to also include 5 ways to find your biggest fans, which I usually charge $40 for, because it's a list of like actual action steps to find your biggest fans. Module 6 is going to talk about connection and sustainability, right? And that is another $600 value. And I give you some specifics. We're going to talk about your lives. You can practice when you go live during module 5. Hopefully I can fit in my schedule. I really want to. I'm going to go on, or one of us will be on there, me, okay, to actually like talk to you, help you through it. I have some really great stuff to help you feel comfortable. I have a list of topics for you about your lives. It's going to feel good. It's not going to feel like spammy or weird, right? And you don't have to wear, like, I did have a light up sword today and I wore a crown. No, I wear Mickey ears. I don't have it anymore. You don't have to do that. If you want to, by all means, right? And then module 6 is called I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. And it's developing your content strategy based on everything we've already talked about before, right? I'm going to give you a guide to 30 great post ideas. They are not shitty. They are based on what I've done in the Girl Boss group that's done really well. They're not like, hey, post. I mean, some of them are silly, but they work well. I will help you sort of custom judge them out. So what they will do for you. Okay. And that is another $600 value. The 30 post ideas is actually $60. It's $2 a post. All of these modules are sexy as hell, and it will save you time. It will save you money. It will create excitement in your group. And for beta clients only, I will, within 1 month of the course ending, give you an audit of your community. If something's not working, if you want me to look at something, normally that's $300 for an hour of that. Like, I'll go in and actually look at it. But for beta, I'm happy to help because I want to see you see results. The only thing you need to do for me for that is give me a fabulous testimonial, like maybe even a video would be great. Because I want other people that haven't been in Girl Bosses with me to feel this. So let's add this up. Math, not my strong suit, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 6, $3,600. Right, plus we've got another 80 and 60. Look at me go. Woohoo! That's what, 14? That's about $3,700 in value if you count the expertise that I have. I have a master's degree in curriculum. I have a master's degree in creative writing, and my undergrad is in middle childhood education. And a huge part of that is culture setting. So I really, really want you to feel what that's like and use that as part of your building community. Okay, so if you are interested in, I'm going to drop the pay link in here, and I'll also post it in the group. Let me grab the pay link, and then I want you to ask me questions because I'm sure you have them, and I'm very curious to hear what you've got. One of the things I want to tell you too is that this window to purchase the beta course is only going to be open for about 2 weeks, because I want to be able to get started with everybody at the same time. So the pay link will only be open for a short period of time so that, you know, we can make sure that everybody gets in and we can all get started and it'll be sexy and fabulous. It is going to start in two weeks. So let me check my calendar. It's after, I believe it's after my birthday. That is my pay link. Let me look. If you can't get on a specific one, let's see. I will always offer the replays, and you will have access to the replays as well. All of the courses will be live, all the modules will be live, but you can have the replay repeatedly. So we have a week. Yeah, it's going to be it'll be November 8th, actually, will be when it starts, because I don't want to start it on a Monday. So November 8th will be when it starts. You can watch the replay at any point. That's when module content will drop. We will kind of get together and share out our course schedule. And then, yeah, you'll have one live with me an hour a week, and you'll have about an hour of additional content. I think what we're going to do, and actually what I'll do is send out a poll, Carlin, for the meetings to see, you know, when people join the beta, what works best for y'all, but it will most likely be weeknights around this time. I really personally like Monday and Wednesday nights, but if we wanted to do Saturday mornings at 7 a.m., like, I'm pretty flexible. Again, the replays will be available, and if you can't make one, you can send me your questions and I will make sure that they get answered in the class itself, because I know we're all busy folks as entrepreneurs, and whatever it is that we want to do. Do I have questions? Is there Kimberly, yes, there is in fact. So once you pay, the link that will pop up, the thank you page, has a community for you. It is the VIP Creating Captivating Community Crew page. So you'll hop in there. You are going to introduce yourself. I will welcome you. And we are going to use that space for interacting, to share out materials. That's where your lives will be posted. There'll be guides, and it will stay awake for you the entire time that you are in this beta community. Once I get this all judged, because it's brand new, it's going to double. So it'll be $4.97 at that point, and I'll put all of your beautiful smiling faces on it, so that everybody can see what a great job you did and how sexy your communities are. I'm going to ask, okay, so yeah, so you will click the link to pay. I will also post it in the 1K New Best Friends free Facebook group. You can just join that. I will send you the link if you can't find it, and I will keep that link up in there as well so that you can see it. The replay of this class will also be posted in there if you want to watch it, if you want to share it. I know there were a few people that had to work tonight and couldn't be with us. So that's a Stripe link that I posted. You'll go through, you'll click it, it'll walk you through the process. The confirmation will pop up, the group will be in there. I'll have your email and I will send you the instructions the day after you purchase, or that day, depending on what time it is. And then we will begin. You'll have full instructions, and we'll have a little orientation video prior to the class beginning. Any other questions about anything that we talked about? And one of the 3 secrets, setting cultures, do you have a specific question about your group? Anything like that at all? I am super, super here for you. I freaking love building communities. I love people. I love parties. I love all of this, like, obsessively. And so I want you to love it too, because it does work and it's so fun. It's so fun, you guys. Questions? Unmute if you have a question for me. I want to talk to you. Talk to me. No one?
I have a question.
Yes, answer.
I tend to have paralysis by analysis. I want to analyze everything. So I kind of jumped in, I made a group, and I've done some of these things, but in this conversation, it's like, oh yeah, I should have done that, or I could have done that a little bit better. So how do you kind of back up this?
You can absolutely back it up. It depends on what's missing, right? I totally get it with the analysis paralysis. Is it culture setting that you think is the issue? Is it that we didn't? It depends on where the breakdown is, how you want to approach it, but it is never too late to pivot and create different rules or decide that you need to respond. Your community is full of people. It's a living organism in and of itself, right? So do you think it's low engagement? Like, where is it showing up that you wish you would have done something differently?
I guess maybe the content and the value,
Mhm.
because I'm getting consistent numbers. And some are repeat and then others are, they come, they go. So maybe I wasn't as clear as I should have been as far as what I want out of this group.
Mhm.
So there's maybe a little bit of disconnect in how I communicated. And maybe I didn't have total clarity.
Exactly. What I would
And now that I do have more clarity of what I want it to be and thinking about these things that you've talked about tonight, I guess, how do I go back and make
your
that known?
content is going to guide it now, right? So what I would do is start to guide the conversations the way that you want them to go, right? Start to create your lives the way you want them to go. And I can pop in if you want to invite me, I'll take a peek at it. But what communicates your culture to your clients, to your audience, is the things that you ask them, right? The things that you choose to share, the things that you let go through if you okay or decline posts, right? So you have full control over that. If you decide to change parameters or rules, be transparent about it. Put the rule up and say, hey guys, I'm changing this guideline. It's a little bit different. I hadn't really thought about it, but this is what I'd love for us to take advantage of. And always presume positive intent on their part, and choose to share it with them as an opportunity for growth for you and for them, because you want them to get more value out of it, because you want them to reflect on it in this way. Always about them, right? Always. And then people will be like, oh, that's cool. She pivoted. I like that. And people respect that if you're transparent about it. But use your content to guide you, and always go back and pivot. You got to, because sometimes we don't know what will happen, right, when we start things. So I'm interested to see what it's all about, though. If you want to send me more info, I want to look, take a peek.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Other questions? I see chatty bits. Let me see what we got here. Okay. All right.
Andy.
Hi, talk to me. What you got?
So I grabbed all the boobs.
Grab 'em.
I started goddess paintings yesterday and sent out invites for a Facebook group. My primary focus was the women who had said to me, either Girl Boss or some other thing, that they were interested in this process. And then I just sent it out to all of my female friends on Facebook. I culled my list back from 5,000 down to 1,000. So these are really people that are, we know how we know each other primarily. I think if I had to split it down the middle, that, out of 500 people, 400, 500 invites, I have 115 in the group. I'm not even sure they know what they signed up for. I kept it really simple. But what happens if you I have no intention of going back and asking people twice. I ask them once, they either jump on board, they do not. But other than that, that's the last of that.
I'm assuming that you're probably going to share a little bit out what you're doing on your personal page sometimes.
Sure.
On your
Mhm.
public.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
People will see that and they'll be like, oh shit, she asked me to be in that. I want to be in that. Right.
Yeah.
And they'll find you. And you and I believe in like that universal energy, right? They will find you when the time is right for them. And
Yeah.
of those 115, if you have 40 that are deeply engaged and that love it and want to come to your stuff, like that's enough to really have stuff to share and move it forward and all of that. Right. So the boob grabbing, I'm not a fan of, but you did call your list down, which is good. And especially if you seeded it too with people that said, yes, I'm in, I would
Yeah.
reach out maybe to people who are art therapists to share with people that have graduated their program, or, Emmy Tefelsky and people like her who don't have a creative component, but have coaching clients that would benefit from that. Like those people that have like Venn diagram expertise.
Sure.
Mhm. That would be a great place to seed some extra people from your community. Add me. I'm in. I'm gonna paint stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Invited to the group, Jen. I had no idea what it was. So Kimberly says, I was invited to that group and I had no idea what it was. So if you invited me again and actually told me what it was or messaged me about it, I would have said yes if I didn't already. So that's why it's so important with your DM to be really specific and to get, before you start seeding your group, set that up, your purpose, your culture, your values, so you can kind of, and it doesn't have to be a formal, like, I think you should join my group, right? It can be, but you want to let people know what they're getting into. So consider that, Jen, especially after you do one round and you have a better idea of what it's going to look like. Go back and look at your list again, because you might find people that you didn't invite before. It might be appealing to them, and people that you did, you might be like, yeah, that's not really their cup of tea, but let it live a little bit, take a little room so you don't feel spammy, and then see how that feels to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yay, okay. Any
Can I
other
ask a
questions?
question?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, it's actually kind of more of a comment that kind of like piggybacks on that. So
Mhm.
I get a lot of people that will invite me to a group and I haven't joined yet because, you know, like life happens and like things are just in there, but then I'll see them posting in the group or somebody else that I know posting in the group and it gives me total FOMO. So that's like like if you are inviting people and they haven't even joined yet, if
Speaking
they
of
see you
FOMO,
posting, you get FOMO and you like jump in there.
you guys ready for a picture?
Yeah, I already took one.
Come in and smile with me. Cheese. Beautiful. I love you, ladies. We took a
But, like,
picture
it's a-
together.
If your group is like Jasmine like invited me to one that I was gonna join, but I just totally forgot to say yes to. And then I started to see posts about it. And I was like, wait a minute, well, I want to be in this conversation.
Right?
It was that simple. And I hate Facebook groups. So
You love ours.
I mean I do love it. Yeah.
You have to now. You don't have a choice. You're stuck. I mean, but one of the beautiful things I think and what makes St. Pete Girl Boss work is that we can all go in and just be who we are. And so for me, that's always the goal with communities that I've created or even that I join is if I can't go in and be Sandy, whether it's whatever hat it is, if it's Sandy mom or Sandy teacher or whatever, I still want to be able to be me. And so if you can create a container like that for the people around you, like Debbie with the financial stuff, that's going to be really vulnerable for people. When you write your rules and your culture, you have to be really like, no, you don't share what's outside of this group. People need to feel comfortable and you don't F around with that. There's an option for anonymous posting. You have to decide how you want to use that. But then you've created this space where people can come in and be like, this is hard. This is hard, y'all. And you can celebrate wins. There's so much value in creating a container that makes people feel safe, you know? And so that has to be part of your culture, especially if people are sharing something that's personal, you know, that can be hard for them. Other questions? No questions. Okay. I am going to, if you do purchase, I'm going to send you out some goodies. I'll send them out to you via email tomorrow. And then you do have those couple weeks. So I'm going to actually close it down the night, that Friday before. My birthday's the 6th. So I'm going to close it down before then. It's going to be on the 4th, November 4th. So that way I can prep for my numbers, make sure everybody has their workbooks and everything they need that weekend. And then we should be good to go. I hope that everybody enjoyed themselves. It is 7:03. I apologize for going a little bit over. I appreciate each and every one of you for spending that hour with me. If you have questions, if you need anything, I'm here for you. I sincerely hope to see you during that 6-week course. I think we can really make some magic. I know you've seen what we've done with Girl Bosses. So I'd love to do that for you. And I send you off with a lot of love and go have a great night. Take care. Bye, everybody.